Between 1800 and the 1850s, London's population more than doubled. Driven by the engine of the Industrial Revolution, over 2.5 million people packed into the urban core, making it the largest city on Earth. But this demographic explosion lacked the structural capacity to process its own waste. Following the Great Exhibition of 1851, households across the city adopted a new convenience: the early flush toilet, or water closet. While it seemed like a sanitary leap forward, it created a logistical tipping point. Previously, residents relied on a network of over 200,000 deep, porous cesspits dug into residential courtyards and basements. The massive volume of water from the new toilets caused these archaic pits to overflow, pushing raw excrement into the streets. With nowhere else to go, millions of gallons of untreated human sewage poured into storm drains, originally built only for rainwater. These drains emptied directly into the River Thames, turning the city's primary drinking water source into a fermenting open sewer. The velocity of industrialization had overtaken human engineering. The largest city on the planet was standing on the brink of biological collapse. In the summer of 1858, a severe drought combined with an extreme heat wave. Temperatures hit 118 degrees Fahrenheit in the direct sun, causing the Thames water levels to drop, exposing massive banks of raw sewage and rotting industrial effluent to bake in the heat. The resulting stench triggered immediate panic. At the time, the prevailing scientific consensus was the Miasma Theory. Victorian doctors and politicians believed that diseases like cholera and typhoid would not spread by pathogens, but were generated by inhaling noxious, foul-smelling vapors. They believed the smell itself was lethal. This vintage map shows exactly how concentrated the threat had become. The deep red heat zones represent cesspit density and sewage discharge points across central London, encircling the centers of government. When the stench breached the windows of the Houses of Parliament, the government took desperate measures. Laborers were paid to dump hundreds of tons of lime onto the riverbanks in a futile attempt to neutralize what lawmakers thought was a deadly cloud of air. The political willpower to save the city was driven not by medical accuracy, but by a fear of the odor itself. Parliament passed a bill authorizing £3 million for a new sewer system in just 18 days. They handed the project to a single engineer, Joseph Bazalgette. He planned to re-engineer the city's entire subsurface hydrology. His design called for an interceptor system of staggering scale. Between 1859 and 1865, his laborers constructed 82 miles of main intercepting sewers designed to catch waste before it reached the river. The project used 318 million bricks and water-resistant Portland cement. This isometric diagram shows how Bazalgette integrated these massive sewers into new river embankments. These structures reclaimed 22 acres of land from the Thames, providing space for both the waste network and the world's first underground railway. This was a massive expansion of the city's subsurface footprint, creating an invisible barrier between the population and its own byproducts. Because London's topography could not rely on gravity alone, Bazalgette built massive pumping stations to lift effluent toward the sea. At the Crossness pumping station, colossal steam engines moved 3.5 million gallons of sewage per hour, housed within ornate Victorian ironwork. While the government funded this architectural triumph to eliminate foul odors, they ignored the work of Dr. John Snow. Snow had already deduced that cholera was not an airborne miasma, but a waterborne pathogen. During an outbreak in 1854, Snow utilized spatial epidemiology. By mapping the locations of deaths, he traced localized infections directly to a single contaminated water pump on Broad Street. Despite his evidence, public health boards rejected his findings. They were too invested in the crusade against bad air to abandon the miasma theory. The government was building a monumental defense against an imaginary airborne enemy while ignoring the true transmission vector. When the system came online in the late 1860s, the foul smell vanished. In the connected districts, epidemic cholera was eradicated. Sanitarians celebrated the elimination of deadly air, but the success of the infrastructure was accidental. By shunting raw sewage miles downstream, Bazalgette severed the biological transmission loop. He removed the Vibrio cholerae bacteria from the drinking supply, protecting the population. By acting on a flawed scientific premise, the Victorians built the exact solution required by the yet-to-be-accepted germ theory. Today, Bazalgette's interceptor principles remain the baseline for modern urban sanitary infrastructure. Modern systems, like Metro Vancouver's, process over 1 billion liters of wastewater every day through facilities like Annacis Island. Modern engineering focuses on advanced resource recovery. Tertiary treatment utilizes biological processes and filtration to extract micropollutants and nitrogen before the effluent is discharged. High-density living relies entirely upon this silent, constantly evolving subterranean machine. Our survival depends on the engineering beneath the street.